Except now he was being introduced as Alexander Reed, the reclusive CEO of Horizon Technologies, worth billions. The same man who had driven her home in a beat-up sedan, who told her stories about budgeting for his daughter's ballet lessons. The same man she'd started falling for, thinking he was just like her, ordinary, struggling, real. Their eyes met across the crowded charity gala, and in that moment, Olivia knew nothing would ever be the same. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming romance stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Your support means the world to us. 28-year-old Olivia Chen had always prided herself on her independence. As the owner of a small but growing floral shop in the city, she'd built her business from the ground up, pouring every ounce of passion and every last penny into making Blooming Wonders a success. Her life revolved around early morning visits to the flower market, careful bookkeeping in the evenings, and the occasional night out with friends when she could spare the time. Romance had taken a permanent backseat to her ambitions, much to the dismay of her traditional Chinese-American family. Which was precisely why her sister Jennifer's wedding was becoming such a nightmare. For months, Olivia had managed to deflect her mother's inquiries about bringing a date to the wedding. She'd invented excuses, changed subjects, and even outright lied about seeing someone too busy to attend family gatherings. But as the wedding day loomed closer, her mother had become more insistent, especially after Olivia's ex-boyfriend, Brandon, had announced his engagement to the woman he'd left Olivia for 3 years ago. The final straw came when her mother called to inform her that Brandon and his fiancée had been invited to Jennifer's wedding, courtesy of Jennifer's future in-laws. "You cannot show up alone now," her mother had insisted during their weekly phone call. "Everyone will think you're still heartbroken over Brandon." Olivia had gripped her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. "I'm not heartbroken, Mom. I don't care about Brandon." "Then prove it," her mother challenged. "Bring someone. Anyone. Just don't come alone." That conversation had led Olivia to do something she never thought she would: download a companion-for-hire app and search for a suitable fake date. She'd set very specific parameters: professional, presentable, good conversationalist, and above all, someone who could be trusted to maintain the facade without complications. When Alex's profile appeared, something about his honest brown eyes and the mention of being a single dad had struck a chord with her. His rates were reasonable, his reviews excellent, and his availability matched the wedding weekend. What Olivia didn't know as she confirmed the booking was that Alexander Reed, the man with the gentle smile in the profile photo, was nothing like what his profile suggested. Alex pulled his modest sedan into the parking lot of his daughter's school, checking his watch. He had exactly 45 minutes to pick up Emma, drop her off at his sister's place, and make it to his meeting with the new client, Olivia Chen. The reservation app on his phone pinged with a confirmation, and he sighed, wondering yet again why he continued this charade. The answer came bounding toward him moments later, her dark pigtails bouncing and a gap-toothed smile lighting up her face. 8-year-old Emma threw herself into his arms, chattering excitedly about her day. "Daddy! I got an A on my science project. Ms. Peterson said my presentation on renewable energy was the best in the class." Alex hugged his daughter tightly, his heart swelling with pride. "That's amazing, Em. I knew you'd knock it out of the park." As they drove toward his sister Kate's apartment, Alex listened to Emma's detailed account of her school day, mentally rehearsing his story for his upcoming client. For 2 years now, he'd maintained this double life: billionaire CEO by day, regular guy by night. It had started as a social experiment, a way to understand how his employees lived and what challenges they faced. But it had evolved into something more meaningful, especially after the company's board had pushed him to maintain a low profile following a series of death threats from a disgruntled former employee. Few people knew that Alexander Reed, the 34-year-old genius behind Horizon Technologies' meteoric rise, volunteered at homeless shelters, drove a 15-year-old car, and occasionally posed as a struggling single father for hire. He'd initially joined the companion app to research user experience for a possible acquisition, but had found unexpected value in the human connections it facilitated. People spoke differently to a billionaire than they did to a struggling single dad. The honesty was refreshing, the connections more genuine. Kate, as usual, was waiting at her door when they arrived, her knowing smile in place. As one of the few people aware of her brother's unusual hobby, she never missed an opportunity to tease him. "Another wedding date?" she asked, accepting Emma's enthusiastic hug. Alex nodded, checking his watch again. "Just a one-night thing. The client needs someone to help her save face at her sister's wedding." Kate's expression softened. "Just be careful, Alex. These arrangements, they can get complicated." He brushed off her concern with a practiced smile. "It's just business, Kate. Nothing more." But as he walked back to his car, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something about this particular assignment felt different. He'd reviewed Olivia Chen's profile multiple times: successful small business owner, no criminal record, excellent reviews from vendors she'd worked with. Her request had been straightforward: she needed a date for her sister's wedding to avoid family pressure and an awkward encounter with an ex. It was a standard job, the kind he'd done a dozen times before. So why couldn't he stop thinking about the genuine vulnerability in her booking message? Olivia paced her small apartment, glancing nervously at the clock. Her date was due to arrive in 15 minutes, and despite having exchanged several messages to coordinate details, she still felt a twist of anxiety in her stomach. What if he was nothing like his profile? What if he embarrassed her in front of her family? What if someone somehow discovered their arrangement? The doorbell's chime sent her heart racing. Taking a deep breath, Olivia smoothed down her casual blouse and jeans, then opened the door. The man standing in her hallway matched his profile picture, but somehow seemed more substantial in person. Tall with broad shoulders, he had dark hair cut short but not too short, warm brown eyes that crinkled slightly at the corners, and a clean-shaven face with a strong jawline. He wore a simple button-down shirt and well-fitted jeans that suggested taste without ostentation. "Olivia?" he asked, his voice deeper than she'd expected. She nodded, suddenly feeling tongue-tied. "I'm Alex." He extended his hand with a smile that seemed genuinely warm. "It's nice to meet you in person." His handshake was firm but not overbearing, and Olivia felt some of her tension ease. "Please, come in. Can I offer you something to drink? Coffee? Water?" "Water would be great, thanks." Alex stepped inside, his gaze taking in her apartment with what appeared to be genuine interest. "You have a lovely place." Olivia laughed nervously as she led him to her small living room, acutely aware of the modest furnishings and the buckets of flowers in various stages of arrangement scattered around. "It's small, but it works for me. The extra space is for my business, I'm a florist." Alex nodded, moving toward a particularly stunning arrangement of lilies and eucalyptus. "These are beautiful. You're very talented." There was something in the way he said it, not the empty compliment of someone making small talk, but with an appreciation that seemed authentic. Olivia found herself relaxing further as she handed him a glass of water. "Thank you. Please, sit. We should probably go over the details for tomorrow." Over the next hour, they discussed the wedding logistics, their backstory, dating for 6 months after meeting at a local farmer's market, and Olivia's family dynamics. Alex listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions and offering suggestions that demonstrated his experience with these arrangements. "So your ex-boyfriend will be there with his new fiancée?" he asked, making notes on his phone. Olivia nodded, her cheeks warming with embarrassment. "Yes. Brandon and I dated for 3 years. He, left me for his current fiancée. My family doesn't know all the details. I told them we mutually agreed to part ways, but I just can't bear the thought of showing up alone while he parades around with Megan." Alex's expression softened. "That's completely understandable. Don't worry, we'll make sure you're the one everyone's talking about, in the best possible way. Something about his quiet confidence made Olivia believe him. As their conversation continued, turning from wedding specifics to more general topics, she found herself genuinely enjoying his company. Alex spoke about his daughter with such obvious love and pride that Olivia couldn't help smiling. He mentioned challenges of balancing work and parenting, shared funny anecdotes about 8-year-old logic, and displayed a depth of character that surprised her. By the time he left, with plans to pick her up the following afternoon, Olivia realized she was actually looking forward to the wedding for the first time in months. As she closed the door behind him, she had to remind herself sternly that this was a business arrangement, nothing more. Alex was being paid to be charming and attentive. Any connection she felt was simply the result of his professionalism. Still, as she returned to her flower arrangements, she couldn't help but wonder what Alex Reed was like when he wasn't on the clock. The wedding venue, a picturesque vineyard an hour outside the city, was bathed in golden late-afternoon light when Alex pulled his car into the parking area. He'd debated renting a more impressive vehicle for the occasion but had ultimately decided against it. His cover story as a project manager for a mid-sized tech company wouldn't align with anything too flashy. "Ready?" he asked, turning to Olivia in the passenger seat. The transformation from the casually dressed woman he'd met yesterday to the vision beside him was remarkable. Her dark hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and her emerald green dress complemented her warm complexion perfectly. The nervous smile she gave him made something twist unexpectedly in his chest. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from her dress. Alex reached across to gently take her hand, an automatic gesture of reassurance he'd performed with nervous clients before. But when their fingers touched, he felt an unfamiliar jolt of awareness. "You look beautiful," he said, meaning every word. "Your ex-boyfriend is going to regret every life decision that led him away from you." Olivia's laugh was soft but genuine. "That's not actually why I brought you, but I appreciate the sentiment." "I know," Alex replied with a smile. "You brought me because you're tired of your mother's matchmaking and your family's pity. But making your ex jealous is a delightful bonus, don't you think?" Her answering smile lit up her whole face. "When you put it that way." They walked into the venue hand in hand, and Alex slipped seamlessly into his role as the devoted boyfriend. He kept Olivia close at his side, his hand resting lightly at the small of her back as they navigated the crowd of wedding guests. He noted her subtle signals, the slight tension in her shoulders when her mother approached, the momentary hesitation when she spotted a tall man with a blonde woman across the garden, the grateful squeeze of his hand when he smoothly redirected a too-personal question from an aunt. Mrs. Chen was exactly as Olivia had described, elegant, razor-sharp, and relentless in her assessment of her daughter's companion. Alex met her scrutiny with respectful confidence, answering her probing questions about his job, his background, and his intentions toward Olivia with practiced ease. "And you have a daughter?" Mrs. Chen asked, one perfectly sculpted eyebrow raised. "Yes, Emma. She's 8. Alex pulled out his phone to show a photo of his daughter, the one genuine element in his fabricated backstory. "She's staying with my sister this weekend." Something in Mrs. Chen's expression softened slightly as she looked at Emma's gap-toothed smile. "She has your eyes." The ceremony itself was beautiful, set against a backdrop of rolling vineyards and a setting sun. Throughout the exchange of vows, Alex was acutely aware of Olivia beside him, the subtle floral scent of her perfume, the way she discreetly dabbed at her eyes during her sister's vows, the warmth of her shoulder occasionally brushing against his. It was during the reception, as they swayed together on the dance floor, that Alex realized he was enjoying himself far more than he should be. Olivia fit perfectly in his arms, her head resting against his shoulder as they moved to the slow melody. This wasn't the first time he'd danced with a client, but it was the first time he'd found himself wishing the song wouldn't end. "Thank you," she murmured against his collar. "You've made this so much easier than I expected." Alex tightened his arm around her waist slightly. "Just doing my job." She pulled back to look up at him, a small frown creasing her brow. Is that all this is to you? A job? The question caught him off guard. Of course it was a job, that's why they were here, why she was paying him. But something about the vulnerability in her eyes made him hesitate. Before he could respond, a voice cut through the moment. Olivia. It's been a while. They turned to find a handsome man in his early 30s standing nearby, his arm wrapped possessively around a stunning blonde woman. Brandon, Alex presumed, noting the immediate tension in Olivia's posture. Brandon, she acknowledged with a politeness that didn't reach her eyes. Megan. Congratulations on your engagement. An awkward silence followed, broken when Alex extended his hand. Alex Reed. I'm with Olivia. Brandon's handshake was too firm, a transparent attempt at dominance that made Alex suppress a smile. He dealt with far more intimidating personalities in boardrooms every day. Brandon Miller. This is my fiancée, Megan. Brandon's gaze flickered between Alex and Olivia, a hint of surprise, and something that looked suspiciously like disappointment, in his expression. How did you two meet? The farmer's market, Olivia replied, the rehearsed story flowing smoothly. Alex was buying flowers for his daughter. You have a child? Megan asked, her perfectly plucked eyebrows rising slightly. Alex nodded, his arm tightening protectively around Olivia's waist. A daughter. 8 going on 18. How nice, Brandon said, in a tone that suggested the opposite. He turned to Olivia. I didn't realize you'd be interested in dating someone with that kind of baggage. Alex felt Olivia stiffen beside him. I don't consider Emma baggage, she replied, her voice cool. She's a wonderful little girl, and one of the many things I love about Alex is what an amazing father he is. The word love hung in the air between them, part of their pretense but somehow weighted with unexpected meaning. Brandon's smile tightened. Well, I'm glad to see you've moved on. We should probably get back to our table. Nice meeting you, Alex. As the couple walked away, Alex felt Olivia sag slightly against him. You okay? He murmured. She nodded, managing a smile. Better than okay. Thank you for that. For what? I barely said anything. Olivia's gaze followed her ex across the room. For being here. For being better than him in every way that matters. Something in her voice made Alex's chest tighten uncomfortably. He'd played many roles in his unusual double life, but never before had he felt this strange guilt at the deception. Olivia believed he was a struggling single father, living paycheck to paycheck, doing companion work to make ends meet. She didn't know that he could buy this entire vineyard with what amounted to pocket change for him, that the company Brandon had just mentioned trying to get a job at was actually a subsidiary of Alex's corporate empire. The weight of the lie suddenly felt heavier than it ever had before. The reception continued into the night, and Alex remained the perfect date, attentive, charming, comfortable with Olivia's family but never overshadowing her. He listened to her father's long-winded stories about growing up in China with genuine interest, entertained her younger cousins with magic tricks learned to amuse Emma, and even managed to impress her difficult-to-please grandmother with his knowledge of traditional Chinese customs, courtesy of Horizon's extensive business dealings in Asia. By the time they made their way back to his car, Olivia was glowing with what appeared to be genuine happiness. That was amazing, she said as he opened the passenger door for her. You were amazing. My mother actually took me aside to tell me not to let you get away. Alex laughed, ignoring the twinge of discomfort her words caused. I'm glad it worked out so well. The drive back to the city was filled with comfortable conversation, as they relived moments from the wedding and Olivia shared family stories behind various relatives he'd met. It felt natural, easy in a way that Alex rarely experienced with anyone outside his immediate family circle. When they reached her apartment building, he walked her to her door, maintaining the boyfriend role in case any neighbors were watching. At her threshold, Olivia turned to face him, her expression suddenly shy. I know this is weird since I'm literally paying you, but, would you like to come in for coffee? Just as people, not as, whatever this arrangement is. The invitation hung between them, loaded with possibilities that Alex knew he should refuse. He had a strict policy about maintaining professional boundaries with clients. But something about Olivia Chen had gotten under his skin in a way he hadn't expected. "I'd like that," he heard himself say. Inside her apartment, as Olivia busied herself making coffee, Alex wandered around her living room, taking in the details he'd missed during their previous meeting. Photos of Olivia with her family and friends lined one wall. Sketches of flower arrangements were pinned to a large corkboard. Books on botany, business management, and classic literature filled a small bookshelf. "Your place really reflects you," he commented as she handed him a steaming mug. "Creative but organized." Olivia smiled, gesturing for him to sit on the small sofa. "I could say the same about you, but I've never seen where you live." "Not much to see," Alex replied, the practice lie coming easily. "A small two-bedroom apartment that's usually covered in Emma's art projects and my work files." They talked for hours, the conversation flowing naturally.